Well, I've just gotten home from the AoS World Championship, and I just wanted to talk through my experience there with our team. Team Canada sent a team for the first time to AoS Worlds. We've been working for a number of years, a few of us, to make this happen, so was so happy to finally bring it all together, get to go over there, play a ton of games, meet an incredible international community, and I'm excited to take you guys through it. But first, I did just want to give a special thank you to Tom and the team, everyone who organized the event, all the refs, all the other coaches, captains, teams, everyone I got to play against, everyone I met and chatted with. Honestly, you all contributed to making this one of the best, if not the best, Age of Sigmar gaming weekend I've ever been a part of, so thank you all so much. And then I gotta give a big shout out and thank you to all of Team Canada, James, Alex, Pat, Carl, Oliver, Dayton, Matthias, and our coach Simone. I was so excited to share this journey with you guys and so proud to represent Canada alongside you all, both on and off the table. To quickly talk about my list, which if you're a channel member, you would have seen on the channel just last week at the start of Worlds, but it's a Slanesh list I've been practicing at events for the past couple months. It's got 50 Bliss Barb Archers, a ton of devastating output, Bellator's in there to lock stuff down and just protect my army from getting hit too hard. The Contorted Epitome is doing a ton of utility, both with generating 3 command points, being able to use triple commands, but then also from Strength of Godhood, doing some good damage in combat, and they're super tough to get a hold of and take down. I then have 2 units of 5 Slick Blades, as well as a unit of 5 Bliss Barb Archers to reduce saves on enemy units, and then a heroic unit of 10 Ungor who actually have such a critical role in this army. As a cheap screen that can also retreat out of combat, they just bring so much value as a cheap screen. But getting right into the action, in round 1 we were matched up against Denmark, and it's no surprise to say that it was a great lesson and experience for our team. Immediately facing off against what turned out to be the strongest team at the event, it was a great showcase of the level of preparation needed to compete at the top. I faced off against Morton, who was playing Slaves to Darkness, and had purposely been sacrificed to draw out our Slanesh army as they'd identified it as a big risk for other matchups. And while the game did go well for me, Morton did manage to grab a couple points, which is really all you can hope for in these especially bad matchups. And while I don't have a ton to say about the match, I was able to triple and tag the Nurdle Knights early, and then the control pieces of Bellator and the Contorted Epitome with the Crown of Dark Secrets, just able to kind of control the tempo and the Slaves to Darkness units, and the output of Slanesh allowed me to take down the threats before they could do too much damage. As a team, this round really exposed one area of inexperience for us, which was an untested view of some of our matchups. We felt the pairings went well, but getting 20-0'd in a couple matchups we thought we should have been winning definitely made this round a kind of big wake up and welcome to the world stage. But I've got to give a ton of credit to Denmark. They had a few lists that didn't look impressive on paper, but in the right roles and matchups were especially effective, 2 of which were Christopher's Sylvaneth and Rune's Lumineth, as those lists seemed a little unassuming, but really stood out and surprised at the event. We only managed to score 47 points on Denmark, but for our first match getting our feet wet in international competition and against such a strong team, can't really have expected too much more of ourselves, so we took it as a great learning experience. Round 2 saw us facing off against Finland, and I got to play against Pietari and his Beast of Chaos, which was a great game, but sadly on the terrible mission that is Twists and Turns. While he had a fairly traditional list, similar to one I played on the channel recently against Oliver, I learned so much about Beast of Chaos playing Pietari and have a newfound respect for the army, and I'm actually excited to get it on the table again soon. Looking at the match, it was an interesting dynamic with both of us having Bellator, but the opportunity for me to lock down 9 Bellator, especially after being given first turn and then getting doubled, was definitely more impactful than anything his Bellator could lock down in my army. And afterwards, I was able, with the output and tools and Slash, able to take down the rather squishy Beast of Chaos units over the next couple turns. What didn't go my way, however, was the mission itself, which always seemed to be twisting and turning in Pietari's favor, but culminated in a turn 5 dash to deny the Beast of Chaos grand strategy, and a last-minute hopeful attempt from the Doom Bolt to score a battle tactic, but his charge came up just short. Though it made for an absolutely epic game with only a single point difference in Slanesh's favor, it resulted in a 12-18 differential score, which definitely wasn't what we hoped for out of our Slanesh, being that's an army we want to score big, so we realized Twists and Turns probably isn't the best mission for that kind of a role. And just as mine and Pietari's game was super close, the entire round was just the same between our teams, with the final result being a narrow 85-75 victory in favor of Finland. In round 3 and the first match of day 2, we faced off against Scotland, which saw me getting matched against Andy and his deadly Skaven list featuring 9 Stormfiends and Thanquol. Similar to the Beast matchup, I was given first turn, played very conservative, and then got doubled, but again Be'lakor came up big by locking down those 9 Stormfiends again. I think without Be'lakor, or if I failed that 3-up in the shooting phase, I probably would have gotten rinsed in this matchup, but that's just the impact that Be'lakor has for an army like Slaanesh. I was then in turn able to do some devastating damage back to the Skaven units and quickly able to take down their threats. And this match was also a great showcase for the Contorted Epitome, who not only scored me a few extra battle tactics because we played on Path of a Champion, but the Epitome was also able to take down Thanquol in the hero phase using Strike at the opening in combination with the buff from Strength of Godhood after a rally, and that was a pretty big blow at the beginning of a Skaven turn. We were still finding our feet with pairings and team rolls, however, and just like the previous round, this one again ended in a narrow loss to Scotland. Despite the losses, scoring decently in the last 2 rounds meant we were still within striking distance of the middle of the pack and actually got matched up against Australia in round 4. Getting a better handle on the pairings and our own army strengths, we were starting to put our players in better positions through pairings, though admittedly myself and Slaanesh were not one of those armies this time, and I took a rough one, and ended up playing against Joel and his Gloomspite Gits on Realmstone Cache, which wasn't exactly ideal, and I will admit a matchup I wish I had gotten more practice against in the lead up to Worlds. While I deployed fairly balanced, I ended up taking first turn to harass the Gits, get in there, do some damage, and stop them from flooding the single center objective. The aggressive play allowed me to score max points in the early rounds, but with an untimely spell that stopped the Epitome from issuing any commands and then being forced into a double, with the objectives also splitting in a less than favorable position, meant scoring grew difficult and I was losing the attrition battle to the Gits. As always, the games you lose are the ones you think most about, and I'd love another stab at it, but Joel played a stellar game and made me work for every point right down to the wire. But despite the tough game, I was all too happy to take a loss when hearing we finally came out on top as a team in another close round, but this time we were in the winner's bracket. This also put us back in the hunt for a top 10 finish, which was my big goal for our team leading into Worlds. And if we could continue to build on our progress and have a strong finish on day 3, we knew it was within reach. With 4 rounds and 2 full days of Worlds competition behind us, a thorough team discussion Saturday evening allowed us to put all our learnings into practice for Sunday. And our first opponents of the day were set to be the Irish. With a great plan executed in pairings by our team, I was set to play against Johnny and his Flesh Eater Torts, which was definitely a favorable matchup for my Slaanesh. Despite the odds though, with the favor of priorities, Johnny was able to scratch and claw to the very end and keep it only a 17-3 differential, but I have to say the highlight of the match is when his dual King on Terrorgeist got all the buffs off with run and charge, plus 3 attacks and a 5-up ward save. Then after Be'lakor failed to reward him, got absolutely torn apart, and it was just one of those moments that you can't help but be excited about no matter what side you're on. But despite the Dual King's heroics, the rest of the matchup and round went in our favor and saw us claim another win and our first cap score, landing us in 11th and just outside of the top 10 going into the final round. We knew it would not be easy though when we saw we were paired into the strong German team, but taking a bold strategy by leading with Flesh Eater Torts as our first defender in pairings, we felt like we were continuing to make great strides and were confident in our matchups. And just like I started the event against Slaves to Darkness, again I faced off against them, this time against Patrick, but I had the advantage of playing on Path of a Champion again. While I took a more aggressive approach early in the game, a slight mistake in shooting order on my second turn meant I left 1 Nurgle Knight and 1 Vanguard alive from each of their units, and they each rallied 4 more back throughout the game. Thanks to some late game heroics from the Epitome, I was able to complete 4 battle tactics in the final 2 turns to pull out a bigger lead in an otherwise neck and neck game. Patrick played an incredible game, always playing to his outs, and still claimed 5 points though in a match that he's typically at a big disadvantage in. So I was definitely nervous about how this would affect the team and the overall round, but hearing that our own Pat East clawed 6 points off of KO with his Flesh Eaters in a terrible matchup meant that we held a 1-point lead with only 1 match left to finish. And just as the whole round had been, Oliver's game with his Slaves to Darkness against Tzeentch was extremely tight, and he nabbed a 1-point victory with both players clocks expiring, which sealed another win for the team. Despite the victory though, the close scoring meant we lost ground in the standings, dropping down to 13th, but there were only 5 points between us and 9th, which is a result we can't at all be disappointed about. I can't say enough about how awesome this event was. Morden, Pietari, Andy, Joel, Johnny, and Patrick, it was a pleasure getting to know and play against you all. I hope to see you again at Worlds or at another event sometime, and just can't thank you all enough for how awesome the experience was playing you guys. And if you enjoyed this recap, stay tuned. I'm going to be pulling together a bunch of the team for a live stream talking about all the experience, our games, rounds, all the fun stuff from this adventure. And we'll be chatting even more about our experience and answering any questions about Worlds. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in another battle report.